Mr. Kerr?
Yes, I'm here, Chairman.
And Attorney Martin?
Hey there, Chairman Baines. I'm on the line.
Thank you. Guys, I'm going to try it one more time. Commissioner Henderson? Okay. Well, guys, as you know, today is March the 26th, 2020. And I'm going to go ahead and officially call this meeting to order tonight. We are here to discuss how we want to proceed forward with our emergency management and things of that nature. There's a couple of things that I want us to look at tonight. Mr. Kerr has prepared a couple of different outlines tonight for us to look at from different communities that are made up like ours. As we get ready to move forward tonight, understand that things are just not like they used to be, and we got to do things differently. So we want to tonight, and we want to try to make sure that we put our community in the best and the safest possible position that we possibly can. As always, we open up with prayer. So tonight we won't do anything different but that. So if you would, let's pray together. Father, we thank you today, Lord, for your grace and your mercy. Thank you, Lord, for even in times like these when there's so much unknown that's going on in our community, not only in this community but throughout this world, God. We thank you for your covering, your guidance, and your leadership, God. Now, there's so many people in our community, God, that have been affected by this already, God, mentally, physically, Lord, and we pray that you touch, heal, and deliver, Lord, like only you can. Touch our leadership, God, as we get ready to make decisions on tonight that will affect over 120,000 people, God. And we ask for your direction, your guidance, God, and give us your understanding and your knowledge, Lord. Father, we ask you to bless this meeting tonight. Let it be what you would have it to be. In your Son, Jesus' name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So I seek a motion that we adopt this agenda tonight.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. If you would, please state your name after you second a motion, or either make a motion, please. Second by Commissioner Mason. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Kerr, I know you have a couple of different outlines that you want to go over tonight. If you would, you want to pick it up right here?
Pardon me, sure, Mr. Chairman. Actually, what I did was I did take a look at, as you know, we met Monday evening, and the consensus at that time was to look at language from other communities that would reflect a voluntary compliance with the recommendations from the CDC and the governor and the president. And so I took a look at several different communities and came across a really very excellent model ordinance and tweaked it a little bit, and you all received a copy of pardon me, that ordinance yesterday afternoon so that you could review it. I know that Commissioner, yes.
For the record, can you state which community that was?
Well, there were several. I actually looked at City of Atlanta, DeKalb County, City of Madison. I looked at a couple of communities out of state, one in California, and the other one I believe was Illinois. And Athens, Clark County was another local community that that I did look at. I did find there were many similarities in those. One of the things I think you all know in government is that there really is not much new in government, and when one group finds a good basic model, then a lot of other communities will take a look at adopting that. And so I did look at all of those to see what kind of language. There was a mixture of, pardon me, communities that were looking at voluntary compliance and communities that were looking at something that was a little more restrictive and were mandatory, in the realm of mandatory compliance. And I also looked at the city of Covington. I want to leave them out. I did look at the city of Covington. I have reviewed their ordinance or their resolution as well. But I came up with the ordinance or resolution rather that you all were sent a copy of, and as I understand it, Commissioner Edwards did have some comments and wanted to make some revisions to that. I don't know if obviously we had opened this for discussion so that any of the thoughts of all of the commissioners, would be there. But essentially what this resolution does is seek voluntary compliance to follow the recommendations of the, pardon me, of the state and federal government along with the CDC. And we strongly urge individuals to follow that. We are not, in our resolution, we have not determined any businesses to close or to alter their way of doing business, with the exception of monitoring the numbers of people that they have in their store, and to keep that under, if possible, under 10, or to be able to maintain at least a 6-foot separation between the individuals in the stores. We did also include in there a voluntary curfew between the hours of 9 p.m. and 5 a.m. So that is, in a nutshell, what is in our ordinance. County offices will continue to operate as they have been since the first of the week. We will continue to provide services, pardon me, particularly emergency services, and we will continue to operate our business and have as many employees as we can work remotely from home and still be able to provide citizens assistance via phone call, the internet, email, and so forth. So that is a brief summary of what you have before you and what I found, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you all might have at this point.
All right. Hey, thank you, Lloyd. Hey, guys, I also want to let you know that I wanted to make sure we have Sheriff Brown on the call tonight, because if anything that we decide to do, and if we decide to do anything mandatory, I want to make sure that he's on the call so he have an opportunity to let us know what his office can handle and what his office cannot handle. So he is on the call tonight. So guys, who wanna lead it? Who wanna start us off?
I would, if I could, Mr. C.
Okay, Commissioner Henderson, go ahead.
First of all, Lord, if I understand, I did not get that particular ordinance that you were referring to, that you had sent out. But what I do know, but what I did hear that I like, and I'm sorry about traffic. People, I'm standing on the porch and they ride up and down the road all the time. But what I did, it was not mandatory. And what that means, it was just more or less at this point self-compliant. And I like it, the 6 feet. I think that's something that's been regularly talked about, both on the federal and state level. And and about people staying at home. I know we have over at Nelson Heights, we have We have closed the playground down and stuff like that. And I was very proud of the ORA cousin, and especially the gym part, as well as we're on the front line as far as making sure all of our first responders are being tested, who need to be tested. And it just made me feel good. So I think we kind of, at this point, on top of it, even though I think it still might be a little spike from my understanding when I talk to other health officials around the state of Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead, Commissioner Schultz.
I pushed the little button that says raise hand. I don't know if that's working, but I don't know if you've noticed that.
If you would just after one of the commissioners gets done with their comments, if you would just greet me and I greet you and I call on you because everybody's not on the video portion of it.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So late this afternoon, we were sent an updated email from the city of Covington with the ordinance that they intend to adopt. And then Mr. Frank Turner sent out an updated version from that at about 5:30. And, their version is a mandatory shelter in place. And I know that when we were on the call on Monday night, we all agreed that we needed to have a strongly worded voluntary, but I think that one of the things that we need to at least evaluate is if the city of Covington is going to adopt a mandatory shelter in place and we do a voluntary shelter or a voluntary compliance, which I want to thank County Manager Kerr for putting together the document that he worked all day Tuesday on to put together. But I do believe that if the city of Covington is going to adopt a mandatory and we adopt a voluntary, then there might be confusion for the public. So I'd like to hear from the sheriff in terms of enforcement on a mandatory, and if the sheriff has seen what was sent out by Frank Turner and from you, Chairman Baines, earlier today.
Thank you. Hey guys, if you could also, when you're not speaking, please. Hey, Commissioner Henderson. Hey, can you put your phone on mute when you're not speaking? That way, none of the background noise come in. Hey guys, that goes for all the commissioners. If you would put your phone on mute when you're not speaking, you still be able to hear everything that's going on. You just want to allow the background noise to come in. Sheriff Brown, are you with us now, Sheriff? Sheriff Brown, if you would match *6, and you should be able to come on the line with him.
Okay. Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
Okay.
Were you able to hear Commissioner Schultz's question?
Yes, I was able to hear. Well, one of my main concerns, I have not seen the piece that Mr. Turner put together, nor have I seen the one that Mr. Kerr put together. My major concern, and what I can hear from Mr. Kerr, this is a non-enforcement issue, but I would have loved to have seen the ordinance before tonight. My major concern is the fact that if we paint this thing with a broad brush, then we're going to push the people further apart, and they're not going to be willing to go along with it. Then you got an enforcement issue. With the enforcement issue, then we're going to have an escalating amount in funding that we're going to have to look at supplying because it's going to require many officers to do this round the clock, as well as now and then if we get to an enforcement issue, where are we going to take these individuals and incarcerate them? Because at the current time, we are trying to just keep those individuals in-house that are in-house and keep everyone else away. We have suspended all of our work release, all of our weekenders, and we're only taking those individuals that now, and the local municipalities has agreed that we're only taking those individuals now that perhaps have committed one of the 7 deadly sins. My concern is I would like to see it before it's put in place, so that if it is going to come to be a enforcement issue, I would like to view it. And let's keep in mind that the governor is the chief law enforcement officer of the state, and we answer to the governor. So let's keep that in mind as well. I think we need to try to run parallel with whatever he's doing at this time and rely on the experts. I understand that Lloyd picked these from various communities, but I think what we have to do is look at our community, in particular our county. Our county is different from Athens, Clark, and maybe Atlanta PD, Atlanta. So I think those are some of the things that we have to look at before we put something in place.
So let me make sure everybody's on the same page, Sheriff. I don't think the proposal that Lloyd has anything mandatory in it. I think some of the things that the city of Covington is going to be proposing is mandatory, and Commissioner Schultz is trying to figure out if we go ahead and adopt some of the same things that they're adopting, how are we going to police it? How are we going to monitor it? And can we monitor it? Are you staffed to be able to handle something like that? I guess that's the question.
Well, again, Mr. Chair, it all depends on how much teeth you got in it, and whether or not the teeth going to be, whether or not we're going to have to have anything to bite on. My main concern now is if it's become an enforcement issue, where are we going to place the individuals and how we're going to enforce it? Also, the escalating cost is going to take for personnel around the clock. Also, what I would like to do, Mr. Chair, is I would like to have a visual of the proposal before it's put in place.
Mm-hmm. That's not a problem. We'll make sure we get that over to you. Sheriff, can you stay on the line for a little while? Because I think there's going to be a couple of more questions that we're going to need you to answer as well.
Yes, sir, I'm here, but also as it stands, Mr. Chair, as of now, because of the COVID-19 crisis that we're faced with, we're having to put in place additional personnel to handle the current situation that we're facing right now. I'll give you a prime example. We're having to bring a nurse into the jail to check the temperature of all the officers that's coming and going, to include those individuals that we may even bring to the jail. We have to maintain that around the clock with our residents here, as well as our workers, our staff here, in the event of they're showing any type of symptoms. So these are the things that we're looking at, and I just wish that everybody would kind of think along those lines of how we're going to police it, whether or not it's feasible, and from a monetary standpoint.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to apologize to the sheriff for not making sure that he got a copy of the proposal that I put together. I will make sure he gets it, make sure he can take a look at it. But I do want to note that it is entirely voluntary. There is not any mandatory language in there. It is all designed for the businesses and the citizens to comply themselves without any kind of mandatory directive behind it. So But again, I apologize to the sheriff, and we'll make sure he gets a copy of that.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Okay, with the new city ordinance that was just issued perhaps today, does that mean that the police will be bringing individuals to jail or be issuing citations, or what does it mean?
That we don't know yet. We're gonna that's one of the questions I was gonna present tonight. We're gonna have to get the mayor of Covington to answer that question for us. Unless Mr. Kerr had previously asked him already. Lord, do you know?
I did ask when we first talked to the mayor and first talked to the city manager. I did ask about enforcement and penalties, and this was Monday. At that point, they had not determined what that would be. As I read through their proposal, through their resolution, there is some language in there that says violations would be handled as any other violation of city codes were handled. But that does, typically that's a fine, but I do believe that they could, the municipal court judge could sentence someone, to some time. So, but they, at that point on Monday, they did not have all of that worked out, and I have not asked since.
Okay. I have another question, Mr. Chair, with that.
Mm-hmm.
The mental health, which all of you know, we have quite a few mental health patients around in the city. Is that given any consideration from the city of Covington? Because most often what happened in the past, when they get a mental health patient, we end up with that individual here as one of our residents. So that's one of the things we have to keep in mind as well. I think it should be a piece in there to address the mentally ill.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Let me roll back to Commissioner Schultz so she can finish her question.
Sorry, I was muted. First of all, I appreciate the sheriff giving us that feedback on enforcement. As we all know, if we can't enforce something, it's, an ordinance is not valuable. So it's something that we really need to take into consideration, the enforcement part. I'm looking at the City of Covington ordinance, and where I see, I do believe that it will require some type of consequences. I don't know that there are, it doesn't really spell out what those consequences are, but I would assume that there has to be some consequences for violating these actions. In terms of further questions, I think it comes down to whether we're going to follow the City of Covington's ordinance or whether we're going to follow the ordinance that we have, which are two. One is follows that mandatory path, and one follows the path of voluntary, but strongly encouraged to voluntary participation.
Okay. Thank you. I didn't hear the name. Who's next?
I'd like to make some comments, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Commissioner Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So between yesterday and today, I've spoken with the mayor of Mansfield, the mayor of New Bern, at least 2 restaurant owners, and several citizens and a member of the healthcare community. So I've gotten quite a bit of feedback. For the most part, I can tell you, I don't believe the 2 mayors would mind me saying they do not believe the proposed declaration goes far enough. Neither of those believe the proposed declaration goes far enough. I've gotten feedback from citizens that do not believe the current declaration goes far enough. Our restaurant owners feel they are policing themselves well enough, but certainly understand if we decide to impose restrictions. So I will say that I have read the City of Covington's declaration, and as written, the declaration I have no problem with. It's what Sheriff Brown just talked about, is the enforcement piece and the extent that enforcement takes place with this. So I'll back up 1 second too, and I'll tell you what one of the mayors I spoke with this morning, was talking about, or actually said, is we don't want to wake up a week from now and find out that we didn't put enough in place. We don't want to wake up 6 months from now and find out we didn't put enough in place to the spread. We don't want to do so much now that we bankrupt our small businesses either. So where's that balance? I think we're looking for that tonight. I think the City of Covington's ordinance would work. I think our ordinance would work with some of the changes I proposed and with a little stiffer language within that particular ordinance. So I welcome comments on that. I also want to state that I do not believe, no matter what we decide here tonight, that the situation is so fluid. I do not believe we can afford to stamp something and say we're finished with it, or put a product out there and say we're finished with it. We have to be agile and adaptive, because the whole ordeal, the scenario is blossoming before our eyes and changing. So I want to be able to keep that agility if possible, no matter what we do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. And I do want to echo that before the next commissioner come on. This is something that that we are looking at daily, because there have been so many changes just today alone, and we got to make sure we are ready to adapt to them. So definitely keep that in mind. I'm getting texts now from different chairmen throughout the state while we're on this call now, trying to let us know what they're doing. But I didn't get a chance to hear that next commissioner. Commissioner Mason, was that you?
No, sir, it wasn't, but I can speak if no one else is. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I did read the ordinance that Frank Turner sent out. I did read Stan's. I could not tell exactly what the major changes was, and maybe Stan can identify what his major changes was. I wasn't able to figure out what changes he made to make it stronger. But at the same token, I was also listening to what Sheriff Brown said, and we have to make a decision that if we are going to put stronger language and if we are going to make things mandatory, then we're going to have to be in support of Sheriff Brown in providing those funds to be able to have those deputies that are going to police. And then we're also going to have to make sure that if we do that and we provide those funds where he is able to actually police properly, we're going to have to declare what those consequences are. And if that means that we're going to be jailing these individuals, we're going to have to figure out where they're going to be housed and how we're going to do that. So if we are going to make anything mandatory, there is some additional, from what it sounds like to me, there's some additional things that we're going to have to work with, the Office of the Sheriffs to ensure that we do that. Now, based off of the ordinance that I saw that County Manager Kerr has already put out, to me, it sounds like that what we're kind of doing is we're encouraging, basically businesses and citizens to almost kind of police themselves and use their best judgment. Of course, we know that everybody will not use their best judgment, but I think because of the media and all the things that are being put out there, I don't think anyone wants to actually be positive or test positive for COVID-19. So I think because people are slightly fearful of actually potentially getting it, they want to know, how can I prevent it so that I can police myself? So it sounds like, from what I'm hearing and seeing, and then I've actually spoken with a couple commissioners in a few other counties, and basically I was telling them what we're doing, and they're saying they're basically doing the exact same thing. And then some of them are they're unsure, and they're basically kind of listening to Governor Kemp and trying to follow what Governor Kemp's guidance is versus trying to take it into their own hands as a local government to try to make it more mandated, that there is a mandated curfew. They're trying to say, okay, well, what is Governor Kemp saying? Let's try to follow that. That seems to be the safest place right now. Yes, I know that the city of Covington sounds like they're making mandates, but when you look at the ordinance, they aren't any specifics on how they're going to police it, what those consequences are. So you can put that out there and say, yes, I want to make it mandated, but what are the additional items that comes along with that? So we can't leave that open-ended as well. So if we follow Governor Kemp's by saying, we're going to strongly encourage, voluntary, that way we don't have to work with the office of the sheriff to add more monies, to have more deputies, to have more personnel, and to figure out what are these additional stipulations or consequences going to be for those individuals that don't meet the mandate of being at a mandatory curfew. So I think we should, as a board, really keep that in mind and look at the whole picture, and not just look at part of the picture, not just look at a piece of the pie. We've got to look at the whole pie and figure out all of those details.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I think we got Commissioner Schultz who next.
Sorry, I was unmuting. So I'm looking at the City of Covington's ordinance, and Commissioner Mason is correct in the sense that for the majority of their ordinance, they reference mandatory compliance. But if you get down to section 15, Article A, it says that individuals, in recognition that the city does not have the personnel nor the resources to monitor and police distancing or gathering limitations or shelter-in-place requirements, the City of Covington Police Department and other departments will authorize support and compliance of this order through information delivery and education of individuals regarding the imminent threat to the public health posed by COVID-19. So it seems to me that there is a sense that they are mandating, but when it comes down to it, when it comes down to really implementing the ordinance, it's all about education. And I think that I believe that in the ordinance that Lloyd prepared yesterday, that's where we meet, is that we're strongly encouraging because of these reasons. So there's a difference in semantics, but the outcome may be the same. The implementation of these two ordinances may be one and the same. And I think that that's something that, that one word, mandatory versus strongly encouraged, and it doesn't say voluntary, it does say strongly encouraged to do these things. I think that we're when all is said and done at the end of the day, we're really achieving similar goals. Now, we may come back tomorrow and say, no, we have to appropriate the resources to make sure that people are staying in their homes. But I don't believe that we have the resources at this point to be able to appropriate them. We may determine tomorrow that we have to do that. That's all I have to say at this time. Oh, Frank Turner says he's on the call.
I am on the call, Mr. Chairman, if there are specific questions about what is intended as far as enforcement in the city of Covington.
Frank, I'm glad. I didn't know you was on the call, but I'm glad you are on the call. If you don't mind, because that's been a question that's been raised several times, can you expound just a little bit on that, please, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir. And clearly, law enforcement always has discretion on whether to give a warning or to issue a citation. But the maximum action that could be taken by the City of Covington Police Department would be to cite the individual for violation of the ordinance. The citation would compel them to appear at municipal court at some future date. Municipal court is not being held because of the judicial emergency and will not be held until that emergency is lifted. They would then have to appear in municipal court. If convicted, it would be a conviction for a misdemeanor, and the judge would have the discretion that he normally has under the city code for conviction of a misdemeanor offense.
Does that clarify for you guys?
Yes, sir. That clarifies for me.
That clarifies for me.
Yes, thank you.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Henderson.
The question is, with the misdemeanor, would they in return get Mr. Turner, would they in turn get any type of fine?
That'd be at the discretion of the judge.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let me know when I make a comment, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, you can now. You got the floor.
Okay, thank you. Hey, I got a floor over here, just a big living room floor in my house. Well, first of all, this is a time where, I think we all we all coming together as a community, and as I was saying, and I think I was talking to my best constituent, my wife. I was telling Sandy, I said, well, it should be no big eyes and no little eyes. It should be all same eyes. And I think what we're really trying to do is to promote self-compliance to the citizens. And if I heard right, when I heard the Sheriff Brown speaking, he said, we don't need to put no additional strain on the office of sheriff. And I believe, if I heard right, we don't need to put a particular strain on the City of Covington Police Department. And what we need to do is education to the citizens, both in the City of Covington and in the unincorporated Newton County, that we need to stay that 6 feet apart. We need to wash our hands. We need to stay inside. In the place where we typically would meet and eat and drink, we need to close. Maybe look at not going to those places. If it's 10 people, you need to not go there at all. You may not want to go there if it's 5 people. But I think that in the long run, if we work together, that we can get through this, and we will get through it, and get past this virus that has taken a lot out of our community, especially jobs, and almost putting us down in a somewhat of a hole. So I think we're doing something good by talking. I was talking together, and we need to really just work together and educate our public. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Hey, guys, I know we haven't heard from Commissioner Cowan yet, but if you don't mind, I want to hold him for a quick second because I was just notified that Mayor Horton and the city manager, Scott Andrews, is also on the line. And I want to give them an opportunity to just say a few words about their ordinance tonight, if they will. Mayor Horton, if you want to come hit *6 and unmute your line, please.
Can you hear me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. We can hear you now.
Okay. Well, I had communicated with the city attorney, so I'm glad that he talked about enforcement. Again, I certainly don't think that line of enforcement will harm the sheriff as far as his jail goes at this point, and I am glad to hear that. However, on this ordinance, from our resolution from the city standpoint, our concern is that we've had considerable healthcare professional, influence that has been given not just to the city of Covington, but to many other people. And our driving concern with this ordinance is that if not just us, not just Newton County, not just Covington, but if in general local governments, governments everywhere, if we don't take some impending mandatory action, that our healthcare facilities, based on the determination and input from the healthcare professionals that have talked to us, will be overrun soon. And if that happens, how do we treat the people, or how do the people that are continuing to develop COVID-19, coronavirus, and the symptoms, so how do they continue to get health care if our resources are expended? And we've had the advice of two different doctors, one a renowned epidemiologist from Emory that spoke with the Georgia Municipal Association and ACCG earlier in the week, who said that it was imminent that action be taken. Basically, he said that we needed action by yesterday. Mr. Turner, our city attorney, got a email message recently, this same week, from, I believe it's the CEO of Piedmont Healthcare, not just Covington, Georgia Piedmont Hospital, but all Piedmont in Georgia that I know of. The city attorney can chime in on this, but he said that if we didn't take some action to mandate social distancing for a period of time, that by April the 7th, I believe is the date that he used, all Piedmont facilities would be at or beyond their capacity or ability to provide, added treatment to people who are sick. Am I right, Mr. Turner?
That is correct.
Turner, you still on the line?
Yes, sir. I unmuted. That is correct. It was the chief medical officer of the local Piedmont who shared with us modeling that Piedmont system-wide has done, that if actions were not taken actually by tonight, that they would be beyond capacity on April the 7th.
Well, he was a local chief, but he was speaking for all of Piedmont, correct?
That's correct. It was based on modeling that Piedmont had done for their entire healthcare system.
And so that's our driving concern, Mr. Chairman, is that, much like other local governments around us and around the nation for that fact, we just feel like that mandatory action is required to help, again, by the time that's needed for other resources to get to the scene and for people to do more assessment and to maybe redirect the direction of this virus. Right now, it is moving at a very fast-paced and aggressive manner. My recollection is that on the 19th day of this month, there was 287 known cases in Georgia. Today, 6 days later, there's over 1,200. That's moving at a great rate. I think the death toll was at 38 or more today, and that number's climbing considerably. We're concerned. I'm just going to leave it at that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for the ability to speak.
Thank you, sir. Scott, are you there? Scott, are you there?
Mr. Andrews, you on the line?
It's not. I know also Chief Cotton is also on the line. He wanted to chime in. Sir, if you would, hit *6 and unmute your phone, and you can go now. Chief Cotton, if you want to hit *6 and unmute your phone.
Hey, this is Chief Cotton.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was only able to catch the end of the sheriff's comments, but I understand his concerns. Just to kind of let everybody know what our stance has been for over a week and a half now, has been to try to social distance police officers when dealing with the public, period. So implementing an ordinance on social distancing, we're directing our officers to do everything to use their discretion just to keep the peace. At the end of the day, a police officer is just a peace officer. And if we can keep the peace, that's what we want to do. So I made a commitment to Sheriff Brown that we were going to do everything to not lock up misdemeanor offenses, shopliftings, anything that was a misdemeanor, that we would just do a citation. And only if it was a crime against a person or a violent crime in felony situations, we may obtain a warrant or arrest them at a later date, with the intent of trying to lessen the impact on the sheriff and his jail at all costs, for all the reasons that have been described prior to what has been said so far. As far as implementing or enforcing this ordinance, I believe the same would hold true. Our first reaction would be to, if we showed up at a scene where somebody complained that people were not using social distancing or our business was open that wasn't supposed to be, we would try to find out what the reasoning was, if they thought that they were essential or not, make sure that they were in compliance with whatever the guidelines were, and only as a last resort issue a citation, and that citation would be not a non-arrestable citation. We would just give them a citation, and they would deal, as Mr. Turner said, with the municipal court at a later date. I think that the only time that I could envision at all that we had a situation where an arrest would be made in a situation like this was if somebody knowingly infected, who had been by doctors or by testing diagnosed with this virus, was purposely endangering or trying to infect other people. There's also already laws on the books for that anyway. And we had to remove them because that would be a personal safety issue amongst all citizens. I think we would act there, and I think the sheriff would probably agree that that would be appropriate. Obviously, we would take all those things into consideration. So I just don't see the enforcement through arrest as any shape or form what we're going to do. You got to remember, every time an officer contacts with somebody, we're placing the officer at risk of spreading the virus. And the last thing we need to do is deplete the officers who are out here on the street. We need all the manpower that we can to keep the peace just in a normal, everyday flow. So I want to just let everybody be rest assured that we're not going to try to be out here just locking people. We're trying to find reasons not to lock people up at this point because we understand the ramifications on the sheriff's department and his jail.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Who is this?
Mr. Chair. This is Sheriff Brown.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. And I want to not only commend Chief Cotton, but all the other chiefs within their municipalities. We had a conversation on last Monday, and everybody we have a united front on that, and things are great with that piece there. The only thing I would like to say is that if we are going to, the board is going to impose an ordinance, this is what I would like to at least see, and that it be clear, that it be a written ordinance so that the sheriff's office has a clear understanding of its enforcement responsibilities, and that the city police office will handle all enforcement in the city, and to insist that there will be no activities or result into incarceration. And I think Chief Cotton has hit that on the head just a few minutes ago, but this was a concern that I think should be placed in the ordinance.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Guys, I got several people that want to make comments. But let me get to Commissioner Cowan before I move past him. Commissioner Cowan, you want to chime in right quick?
Yes, just a couple of questions. This is for Frank Turner. Are you available?
I am now, sir, yes.
Okay. Frank, I was just thinking, and we've been talking about enforcement and everything and looking at this from a criminal side. Is it possible to look at it from a civil penalty side, maybe a revocation of business license? And if somebody violates something, that would force the restaurant owners and store owners or whatever to kind of self-police themselves if they knew the risk of losing their license was there. If y'all considered that?
It's an interesting idea. No, it just hadn't occurred to me. We've modeled this on other jurisdictions that have all had this just misdemeanor provision, but we would have to devise an entire due process procedure for a hearing before you took the business license away.
Right.
The beauty of a misdemeanor is there's a system in place and there's due process rights afforded to the defendant. We would have to come up with a process that would go before the city manager to revoke the business license. And one problem you have with that, we run into from time to time. There's a misconception that a business license is something you can take away from somebody. In fact, it's an occupational tax, and once they pay it, they pay it. So there's really nothing the city can do to shut down or revoke a business license and shut down a business. So I would be much more comfortable leaving it as a misdemeanor offense and in Covington, that's a maximum fine of $1,000. I don't know how often that is actually assessed at that level. Probably not very often.
Okay. All right. That was just a question that popped in my head. I wanted to ask it. Just my comments, Mr. Chairman. I've read through Covington's proposal. I think given the numbers and the high level concern, I think it's a model we should consider seriously. And I would say make it a joint resolution between the city and the county. But my thoughts have changed from the other night because I was all for voluntary, but the numbers are just increasing dramatically. And I think if we're going to get a hold of this, we've got to take some tough measures. So that's my thoughts.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Mr. Kerr, you want to chime back in? No, you.
I would say this: if the board's inclination is to adopt the city ordinance or resolution, rather, there are some things in there I think that we would need to clarify. There's a couple of the things that I've kind of picked out a little bit are there is a provision in there for the cessation of all business or business operations that are not considered essential. They can, as I understand it, it looks like that someone could continue to operate from their home, but the list of essential businesses, there's a lot of businesses in there that are not included. For instance, if someone runs a retail store that sells clothing, that was not listed under essential. So then, based on this, it would be they would have to close. But I guess the question would be, grocery stores and food stores that sell food are allowed to remain open, provided that they follow the distancing guidelines and crowd guidelines. So, but if that same shirt store sold Coca-Colas and candy bars, would it now be allowed to be open? So I think we've got to, if the board does decide to adopt this, I think there's some more clarification that we would need, that we would really need to do to make sure that if it's a mandatory thing and we're looking at enforcement, that we're sure about what enforcement, what the enforcement action would be and what would be the infraction. Beyond that, I still have some concern about some of our small businesses who may only employ just a few people, but they may be required to cease operations. And even though it would be for a short period of time, those employees that they have may find themselves out of work, and it may be a while before that business can recover. So I think that has to be taken into consideration too. But the other part of this, and as a purely logistical standpoint, I think we would have to really flush out some of the issues, some of the things in this ordinance to make it so it's crystal clear when it comes to what the enforcement would be, what the penalty might be, and then being able to determine what the infraction is. I don't think if the board is intended or has the inclination to adopt this, I would say we need at least a little bit of time to kind of work through those issues before we bring it, before the board would be able to, to make a fully informed decision on what it is. Sometimes, the devil's always in the details, and we don't want to subject the citizens to some unintended consequences. So, and I stand ready to assist in any way I can to follow whatever the wishes of the board are.
Thank you, sir. I'm going to bring in Commissioner Schultz, but I do want to make sure that because I know I do believe we got from what I'm gathering here from text messaging, the support that want to partner with the city. So I want to make sure that we do this in a timely fashion, and if we're going to do it as quick as we possibly can, and we want to make sure we get to share the information that he needs as well. Commissioner Schultz, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I just want to say that I think that given the explanations that we have been given tonight and the reassurances that we have been given tonight from members of the City of Covington, the discussions that we've had about enforcement, I feel very strongly that we need to move forward with this, with a joint resolution. I also believe that having been on the call with Dr. Del Rio the webinar with Dr. Del Rio at the beginning of the week, time is of the essence. And if we wait too long to get everything right, we will miss our window of opportunity to stop or to flatten the curve enough to impact the hospitals. Now, that being said, I do agree with Mr. Kerr that we've got to flesh out some of these details, but I would say let's go ahead and adopt this resolution and give the authority to Mr. Kerr and others to work through the night or first thing in the morning to flesh out the details. We can always adopt a general joint resolution and then continue to work on those fleshing those details out. But I believe that time is of the essence. We need to determine a time when this goes into effect because we need to communicate this as quickly as possible to our residents.
Well, I will tell you that Rockdale goes in effect tonight at midnight tonight.
Well, I think that one of the things that Dr. Del Rio said is that the only way for this to really impact hospitals is for us to take an approach where we're all in this together, making the same types of responses. So if Rockdale has done it and City of Covington is planning to do it, we need to all be unified, or else people will just move from the place of least resistance, and then it doesn't help our hospitals.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. I'm trying to figure out if you would tell me your name.
Oh, yeah, it's Lloyd.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Kerr.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Mr. Chairman. I understand the need to move ahead, but obviously, and you know, you have heard from the sheriff that we're going to need to give him the sufficient resources in order to handle this. So, do you? I'm assuming then that you will support the sheriff in whatever it is that he needs in order to do this job.
Are you posing that question to the board?
Well, I mean, I guess to all the board, and I guess really the point of the question is, if we are trying to move ahead as quickly as we can, then obviously it's going to take a transfer of funds to the sheriff's department in order to give him the necessary personnel that he needs. You know, in all fairness to the sheriff, I want to make sure that he has that support, so that when I come to you with a large budget transfer, that you all would be in support of that and make sure that we do fund this to the extent that we need to in order to implement it and make it successful. Even though this first round may only be 2 weeks, but at this point we really don't know. And this could drag on for a very long period of time. So, that's a consideration, and you know, we can do whatever we need to do in order to make that happen. But I wanted to make sure the board was aware of that.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, which commissioner? I didn't get your name.
This is Stan, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, I'm in agreement with Commissioner Schultz that we move forward with the version along the lines of the City of Covington. Since we charged Lloyd Monday night with particular tasks, and since that, in those 48 hours, things have changed dramatically. So has my opinion. So, I just move forward in the quickest time possible, in my opinion, to adopt the more stringent declaration of emergency declaration along the lines of what the City of Covington has. I would also say that if we're going to use that particular declaration, that we follow the suggestion or honor the suggestion of the sheriff, and that if at all possible, there are no arrests. If at all possible, there are no arrests arising from this particular declaration. In other words, you can say there will never be arrests about how things would escalate in a certain scenario, but that we follow the City of Covington and try to do education and everything we can to even prevent writing a citation. That would be my suggestion, or even some suggestion language into that declaration. But the last thing I have is, so just for everyone, so everyone's on the same page, if we have any declaration we adopt tonight is for what time frame?
If we're gonna adopt one tonight, I think we need to make it in effect as soon as possible.
But for how long?
For the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this is Nancy Schultz. I believe the City of Covington's resolution says through April 7th.
It is the 7th? Okay, I didn't know whether it's the 7th or the 13th.
I believe it's dated April 7th.
Which, I tell you what, if we adopt and move forward tonight, and sound like I already have 3 commissioners that are in agreement with moving forward tonight or following the City of Covington, I think we just follow the City of Covington with the dates as well, and allow Lloyd to go back and work through the bugs and try to get it tweeted as much as we possibly can.
It should be the 13th.
It is the 13th?
It just should be.
It should be.
Just turn when you get a chance.
Okay. So let's handle one at a time. Mr. Turner, are you there?
I am, Mr. Chairman. Just takes me a second to unmute it.
So can you give us that date, please?
Yes, sir. It's currently drafted, and again, it's only a draft, but it's currently drafted. It would become effective tonight at 9 o'clock and remain in effect until midnight on April the 7th. Unless extended, rescinded, or amended by the council.
How many days is that? Do you know right offhand?
I don't. I will say the reason we've used the 7th, we've kept the 7th as our sort of end date. We started adopting emergency resolutions last week, and we've just stayed consistent with the 7th. As of today, it would be 13 days. It's not even 2 weeks anymore.
13 days. Okay. And y'all okay with the 7th instead of the 13th?
And I would just say this: the council did not, pick the 7th. That was just a date that we had been using since the first resolution. So the council may be open to a later date.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chair, this is Nancy Schultz. I'm comfortable with the 7th or 14 days from today, and with the ability to extend it if necessary.
Okay, I think it needs to be 14 days. That'll be in agreement with everything the state is doing. Commissioner Henderson, go ahead.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Well, I personally think that's a good I want to say resolution that the city of Covington has. But it was just a couple of things that I want for information, and the next one was for the I guess the comment that the sheriff had made. The information piece was how many COVID-19 viruses cases have we had here in Newton?
Right now it's 5.
Okay. Thank you. The second question was, the sheriff mentioned a piece about mental health, and he was saying that was something that we need to look at together, because there may be some additional inmates that were coming. Still may be coming to the jail, and we know at this point that anybody that you take into the jail, there's a possibility they could have the virus or whatever, even though they're being checked by temperature. Symptoms might not show right then, but from 2 to 10 days, I think, from my understanding, the symptoms might show up. So, are we addressing those mental health cases that comes into our jail? I guess that's a question for the sheriff, somebody, if he could answer that one.
Hey, Sheriff, are you there still?
Yes, sir, I am.
You want to take that question from Commissioner Anderson?
I will answer it as best as I can. I think we need to work closely with our local mental health workers. I think we need to work closely with them, along with our staff with mental health, and have the assessments conducted and try to not place them in the jail, but see if we can get a state transfer.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
I have, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I have just two follow-ups.
Okay.
I did not hear a support when County Manager Mr. Kerr was concerned about the funding. I did not get a clear answer on that. And the next question I have is, prior to putting the proposed orders together, there's a couple of things that I would like to have placed in the ordinance to ensure that we all are protected.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, this is Commissioner Mason.
Okay, give me 1 second, sir.
Okay.
Well, I'm gonna poll the board again, and the board will get a chance to make a final I can make a final statement. As I answer that question one by one. You just hold on 1 second, Sheriff. Go ahead, Commissioner. Commissioner Mason.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. I was listening to the conversation, and I'm glad to hear that Chief Cotton and Sheriff Brown are basically on the same page in regards to how we're going to manage that from a legal perspective by basically giving citations, versus jailing. So that was great clarity for me. And so I guess I'm wondering, with that being said, I know Sheriff Brown had just talked about funding. Will we actually need more funding if we're not going to be jailing anybody? Will we need more funding to have more deputies for more citations? And that's something I don't know. So I guess that might be a question posed to Sheriff Brown. If we would still need that funding, additional funding, if we're just giving citations and not actually jailing individuals, do we have enough personnel now that can cover the citation piece if we're not taking anyone to actual jail, if they're not meeting that curfew ordinance that we actually put in place?
Sheriff, would you like to take that now, or?
I can. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Mason. As all of you know, we're entering into uncharted, I would say, territory, and I'm a firm believer that we have to be prepared at all times. That I don't anticipate that this is going to work just like clockwork. So I would think that we would need to go ahead and set forth some type of funding. When you look at the community as a whole, it's going to require much more visibility within the community if you want this ordinance to be carried out. So it's not only going to affect the jail, but it's going to, in order for it to work, you have the entire community that's got to be policed even harder.
Okay, thanks, Sheriff Brown. That makes sense. So for me, hearing that, I of course support that. I don't have an issue with supporting. I want to make sure that we're doing everything we possibly can. And if we need to provide additional resources to our Office of the Sheriffs, I'm definitely open to do that to ensure that we're able to manage this area appropriately. And if it means that we need to add additional personnel, or having the personnel we have have extended hours or time frames, I'm definitely open and support that. I do like the idea that we're just providing citations and not actually jailing anyone, because that does take a little bit of relief off of Sheriff Brown as well. I did want to say too, to what Commissioner Cowan was talking about earlier, if possibly there can be something that we put in there that will basically kind of even help us allow our small businesses, our larger businesses, kind of see that this is a very serious matter. And of course, we're not trying to close the businesses down, but we do kind of want to put some type of regulation or stipulations where our businesses can kind of see, hey, this is serious. I don't know if we've reached out to businesses or if this is even possible to do that, but maybe have, where they can create signage, on their buildings to say, hey, these are recommendations, use sanitation wipes when you come in. I did notice like Walmart, I think some of the larger chain stores, what they're doing is they have people that are actually spraying down the actual baskets. They're wiping down the baskets to kind of ensure that as people are pushing baskets, that they are being disinfected. So I did notice that. I did notice a lot of people out in the community, they're now wearing disposable gloves. They're wearing masks if necessary. From what I did see when I was out, I did notice that people are keeping that 6 feet distance. I don't really see a lot of people standing close, having conversations like before. And then also, I believe a lot of the businesses, I'm noticing they're like closing at 8 o'clock. They're closing a lot earlier than they did before. So just kind of in this ordinance, being able to reiterate, to our place of businesses to kind of continue doing what they're doing, kind of let them know that it's a very serious matter and we want to do our best to protect our citizens. And so policing it the way that we are, I think will be great. So I do support, if we need additional funding for Sheriff Brown to actually put in a mandate, I'm definitely open, and I do support that.
Thank you, sir. Guys, before we go to our closing comments, I want to bring one more perspective on tonight. Sarah Hall, are you there? Sarah Hall, are you there? If you could, *6.
Hi, Chairman. I'm here.
Hey, can you talk a little bit about the industries, please? How they will be affected or won't be affected by this?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, please.
Yeah, be happy to. Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. Thank you for taking the time to do this tonight, and also County Manager Lloyd. First off, I just want to say I appreciate y'all jumping on emergency calls. I know it is a trying time for everyone, so I appreciate your hours. On this, myself and Dave in the office have been where they are. And one thing that I can ask, if you are looking into a mandatory resolution that comes before tonight, is that you do look at the department businesses. And that list usually reflects anything that not only the federal government, but also our state is looking at and details there. Many of our industries are medically driven and would be considered on that essential list. We actually, right now at Cicada's facility, they are creating and working in their R&D labs on creating a drug to help fight COVID-19 virus. And so it is critical and essential to make sure that they are listed as an essential business, along with companies like BD, SKC, and General Mills, and many others that are in our operations. Along with the Chamber of Commerce, and I believe any of them will tell you they are practicing very safe precautions of limiting, also working from home as best they can. Many of them have skeleton staff that are just kind of trying to keep the supply chain open. So again, tonight, my request and for you all is to make sure that if you are adopting any type of detail, is that you please look at that Homeland Security essential business list and consider our industries and manufacturers. And if we can be of any help of that, we would be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. So guys, we just heard from Commissioner Mason. And I'm going to go over to Commissioner Edwards, and we're going to go make our way down the list. And because I think the sheriff deserves to get that question answered that he wanted to answer. Will we support funds allocated to him if it comes to that? And also Commissioner Edwards, if you will, let us know if you are in support of moving forward in adopting the same ordinance that the city of Covington have tonight to go into effect, I think, at 9 o'clock tonight, if I'm not mistaken. Sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am in favor of moving forward with the adoption of the City of Covington's, or something similar to the City of Covington's declaration. I want us to be real clear on the dates, and I want to be real clear that and I believe Mr. Turner stated to a certain date unless extended, amended, or rescinded. I believe it's very important to have that in that declaration. And yes, I will support the funds needed for the sheriff's department to provide these particular enforcement of this particular declaration. I believe that these extraordinary times have called for extraordinary measures, and we are at that point now, and maybe even behind still. So with that, I'll yield, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Mason, you are still in agreement, is that correct?
Yes, sir. I'm still in agreement.
Okay. Commissioner Schultz, you're next.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am in agreement with the city of making a joint resolution with the city of Covington. I would ask, though, has the city of Covington actually adopted this tonight so that we will all be unified at the same time?
Well, we can. I don't know if they adopted it yet, but I know they have the intention to adopt it tonight.
Mr. Chairman, can you hear me? Thank you. Go ahead, Mr. Mayor.
Well, all I was going to say, it is our plan to have a teleconference meeting at 8 p.m. for that purpose.
And so we would all be in sync in terms of the time and the time that we begin the enforcement and the time that it's in practice. Is that correct?
Yes,
that is correct. And I would like Mr. Turner, while he's still on here, to speak to the issues that Sarah Hall raised, because he and I talked about that earlier. Mr. Turner, can you speak to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The mayor and I did talk about this. This is largely based on Athens' ordinance that Madison has also adopted. I've come to find out today it came out of California initially. It currently exempts all industrial manufacturers. They are all considered essential businesses. You've had a lot of debate around the country where you start saying some manufacturers are non-essential and some are, and then there's a lot of debate about who qualifies. It's currently drafted all industrial manufacturers are considered to be essential businesses and will remain open. Furthermore, any business that supplies another essential business with support or supplies is also deemed essential. So there's sort of a bootstrap approach. So we do not feel it would impact any of our local industries.
Okay. Thank you.
And as far as the times, the question on the times, again, this is Frank Turner. The 9 o'clock tonight is certainly an arbitrary time. If midnight seems to make more sense, we've not yet discussed that with the council. It's whatever seems to work for the bodies.
Mr. Chairman, this is Scott. Just for point of clarification, our meeting tonight is at 8:15 p.m. for the city of Covington.
Okay. So, Commissioner Schultz, if you will, we just need to know if you are in support of moving forward with adopting the language that Covington is using as well, and are you in support supporting the sheriff allocating funds to them if need be to help in this situation?
Yes, I'm in support of adopting the same ordinance as the city of Covington. And what I would request in relation to the sheriff's enforcement, I would like that phrase, if need be, to be part of my agreement. And I want to make sure that the sheriff and the city of Covington police are acting in accordance with each other, because I don't believe that there needs to be inconsistency there. So I would support, if need be, sheriff funds being appropriated.
Thank you. Commissioner Henderson, are you there still?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
The question on the floor is two questions. Will you support funds being allocated to the sheriff department if need be to help in this situation? And also, will you support us adopting language in the ordinance or resolution that's tied in with the city of Covington moving forward tonight.
Well, first let me make just a little comment, if I may. And the little comment that I'm going to make is that whenever we can work together, the city of Covington and the other municipalities, the sheriff, officer sheriff, and the city of Covington police, Stacy Cotton, it makes it all better for all of us. See, because I'm a firm believer in that united we can do something really great. And what's those saying? United we stand, and divided we fall. Well, we're standing united and trying to get past this pandemic, COVID-19 virus that have really scared all of us. And I don't think it's too many people in Newton County, probably in the whole world and the United States, who is not aware of what we need to do as citizens, how far we need to stand apart, and how many times we need to wash our hands per day. And just saying that we know what we need to do. We just got to do it as a group of people. But yes, I am. I think that's a very good ordinance that the city of Covington, Mr. Turner, and the mayor and the council have drafted, and I'll be more than proud to support it. And for the share funding, yes. Let us not forget about there might be additional funding. There's going to be additional funding, no matter what he does. And Merchant, we would like to say that there's not going to be any funding. I would beg the difference. We're going to have to fund that. So let's not say today that we're going to fund it, whatever's needed, fight this invisible warfare against this virus. Let's be able and ready when the time comes and the sheriff say, hey, I need money to do this for more officers. I need money to do that. Then we need to stand up and raise our hands. The same as we raised today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Cowan, those same two questions are proposed to you tonight. But I do want to say before you go ahead with your comments that I have been in contact with the mayor of Porterdale, and Porterdale support this 100% as well. I haven't been able to talk to the mayor of Oxford yet, but I'm sure Mayor Edie will be in support of this as well. Mr. Cowell, Commissioner Cowell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I support this as a joint resolution with the City of Covington. I think their ordinance and the resolution they had presented is well written and would work well for us. As far as the sheriff goes, yes, I support the funding necessary to achieve the enforcement of this ordinance. Can you hear me on that?
I heard you. I believe we heard you, Ronnie.
Okay, I can't hear. I couldn't get no feedback.
Did we lose Mr. Chairman?
I think we did.
Yeah, because I don't hear him.
All right, Mr. Vice Chair, take over.
Why did I know that was coming?
You knew it was coming.
I did. Mr. Chairman, is that you back? Oh, that was Commissioner Henderson, huh?
Yeah, this is Brian. I do not show him on my screen as still listed on there. You may be trying to call from a different number or hop back on.
Well, I mean, it sounds like that we're all in agreement to move forward. Mr. Kerr, are you still there?
Yes, I am, Commissioner. I'm still here.
Okay, so basically, based off of everything you've heard, are there any additional items that you need from us as a board to be able to move forward with what we've agreed to at this point?
Not at this point. I will be, and this is really, I guess, for the sheriff. I'll be in contact with the sheriff in the morning to begin to determine, so that he can determine what he needs and will determine what the funding will be.
Okay, great. Did we have any other comments?
Yeah, Mr. Vice Chair, I think we all should make some closing comments if we have time.
Yes, sir. Sure. Commissioner Edwards, if you want to go ahead and go, that would be great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chair, I'm sorry. So since Monday, I have spoken with a lot of people, and a lot of those people take our scenario very seriously. A lot of people do not as of yet. So if you've listened to Surgeon General the last several days and some other healthcare experts, clear that we have not, as a nation, taken this serious enough yet. So I would implore our citizens to please adhere to CDC guidelines, adhere to the declarations that it looks like is going to pass on this board and the city of Covington, the city of Oxford, the city of Porterdale, city of New Bern, and the city of Mansfield tonight. So we don't take this decision lightly. I haven't slept in 2 nights. So I have friends, very good friends, that in all likelihood will be impacted negatively by this declaration. So I certainly don't take it lightly. I just ask that our citizens, it's time now. It's time now to stop and take a look at what you're doing to help stop the spread of this disease. Our healthcare system will be overrun very soon, according to the data. And I'm a data person, so our healthcare system could be overrun very soon if we don't do something quickly. So I would just implore all our citizens to take that very seriously. Listen to what your healthcare professionals have to say, and hopefully we can be past this in a couple of weeks instead of several months. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thanks, Commissioner.
Thank you guys for stepping in. I don't know what happened to my phone there, but I'm back, and I appreciate you keeping the meeting going. Guys, we had an opportunity to hear from Lord. Did you get a chance to make your statement, Lord?
Yes, sir, I did, and thank you very much. I was just wanted to let you all know that, pardon me, I'll be meeting with the sheriff, I'm sure, in the morning to determine what's needed here.
Thank you, sir. Guys, I just want to say a couple of things, and then I'm gonna sign that declaration into law. I've been quarantined now for almost over a week now, and dealing with fevers. I've been tested. My test hasn't came back yet, so I don't actually know what the results are. I do know I have pneumonia, dealing with that. But I just want to say this is a serious time that we're dealing with. It's a time that I believe that not many of us seen this before, this type of activity, this type of outcry. So I believe we do got to take the necessary steps to do what we need to do to make sure that our citizens not only feel safe, but are safe. And so, with that being said, I look forward to signing this agreement to this resolution into law, and making sure that our citizens feel safe. Let's do what we can. Let's do our part. Let's make sure we're washing our hands. Let's making sure we're encouraging people to stay home. Let's make sure if we see folks that are crowding up, let's kind of encourage them not to do that in a loving way. But I thank you tonight, this board. I thank you tonight for caring enough about your community to keep doing these calls. But I want to assure you, this won't be the last call. this thing is changing every day. Is something different about it. So, and thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir, for being open to meet at the drop of a moment. Things are going to be different for the next 2 weeks, if not longer. When you look at Rockville, they doing the same thing tonight that we're doing. So call your friends, call your family, call your church members, and let them know what's going on, so it won't be a shock to anybody. Let's make sure we get this word out, so the public, it won't be a surprise to anyone. Thank you, Sheriff Brown. Thank you, Chief Cotton and Mayor Fortin and City Manager Andrews. Thank you guys for being on the call and bringing this board valuable information. Thank you, Mr. Kerr, for putting this together, giving the board some options to look at tonight. Thank you, commissioners, for doing your homework, preparing yourself and making tough decisions when tough decisions need to be made. Tonight. Thank you also, Sarah Hall, who was on the call, representing the industry. Thank you guys. But with that being said, tonight we're going to get off this call and tend to our family. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, just one more thing. Now, the ordinance that's about to be signed tonight, are you saying it's already in place? Do we have to revise it to fit our needs here?
There's going to be opportunities for Mr. Kerr. He's going to sit down with you, Sheriff. But I think this is going to be signed into law tonight at 12.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, what the city of Covington is doing. We can prolong, but I think we might as well. If we're going to do it, we need to move forward with it and make changes as we go. Because this thing is going to look different. It'll look different by before Friday. It'll look totally different because things are just evolving so quickly. But yeah, I will go ahead and sign it into. I'll sign it into law. I'll do that tonight.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sheriff, go ahead.
My only concern is that because it looks like you acknowledge and everybody acknowledged the lack of authority to legislate regarding the staying in place, I strongly recommend that we make it clear that we strongly encourage. Again, I don't think we should paint it with a broad brush that we cannot enforce it, okay?
Are you speaking about the curfew, or which one are you talking about, Sheriff?
The overall ordinance, how it's going to be written up. Like I said, I don't want it to be so strenuous. Like I said, I need to see the one, I guess, the city of Covington put in place. But I would like to say that from our side, I'd like to see is strong language, strongly encouraging citizens to apply and abide by the ordinance, not so much as the enforcement side of it, okay? And also, I would like for Mr. Kerr to get with me. There's some language I would like to make sure that is in place that can govern the office of sheriff.
I'll be glad to, Sheriff.
Okay. Lord, can you take care of that for me?
Yeah, I can, but I think if you're going to be changing any of the wording on this, you may either want to postpone adopting this or adopt it and then be prepared to amend it as the sheriff is recommending.
Okay. Well, we're definitely open. We're definitely open for amending it. But it's already passed tonight. It's already passed 5-0. We went through each commissioner, and that's,
Sure.
So it's 5-0. But there is, like I said, there is an opportunity for you to go over with the sheriff, and you want to bring it back to us, and we can look at some of the things that he has questions about. We can definitely do that without that wouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay.
But that is supposed to go into order tonight at midnight. And let me make sure we're good. Miss Martin, are you still there?
I am still here, Chairman.
Is that correct?
It is, sir. What we've done in the past is pending county manager approval or pending county attorney. That way we have a little bit more time to shake that out. If that's something you want to pursue, we could make it a joint resolution and have that ready.
I think they're.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Lloyd.
I'm sorry. I thought you said that you were adopting it, so I don't know that we would. I mean, it sounds to me like if since it's been approved, then if there are any changes, once the sheriff and I are able to get together, I guess then we would have another call-in meeting if there needed to be amendment.
Mm-hmm. That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right. And we could, send any of those changes over to Ms. Martin for review as well. But as it stands right now, what is being adopted is the ordinance, the exact ordinance that the city is also putting in place.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's fine. Just want to make sure we're clear on that.
Do we need to read that resolution, or are you good?
I'm fine with just a simple motion to approve.
Okay. So I seek a motion that we move forward with adopting this resolution tonight.
So moved. This is Commissioner District 1.
Second.
Second.
Stan, Commissioner Edwards, since you made that motion, can you make that motion effectively and give me a date, please, or time?
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion we approve the declaration as previously discussed and approved by this board effective March 26th, midnight.
Thank you, sir. Can I get that second, please?
Second.
So clarification, is it March 25th at midnight or March 26th at midnight?
March 25th at midnight. I'm sorry.
Second.
Can I get a second? Thank you. It's been motioned by Commissioner Edwards and second by Commissioner Schultz. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Cameron, yes.
That's an aye from District 1.
Okay, all in favor. Let me do it again. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye from District 1.
Any opposed? It passed 5-0. Thank you. Guys, I appreciate you calling in tonight. Appreciate your time and all your efforts that you put in for this community. Thank you so much. I seek a motion. If there's anything else, I seek a motion that we adjourn tonight.
This is Commissioner Schultz. I move we adjourn.
Second.
It's been motioned by Commissioner Schultz and second by Commissioner Mason. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, guys. We stand adjourned tonight. Y'all have a nice night and enjoy your family.
Thank you. You too, Mr. Chair. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
No.